A long time ago, people had a big dream. They wanted to connect two great oceans, the Atlantic Ocean and the Pacific Ocean. These oceans were far apart, and between them were mountains, rivers, jungles, and valleys. But people believed that one day ships could sail through the land, not around it. This idea seemed impossible, but the dream was strong. In 1513, a man named Vasco Núñez de Balboa stood on a mountain in Panama. He looked out and saw both oceans from one place. He was the first European to do this. It was a powerful moment. He must have wondered, what if we could bring these oceans together? That question stayed in people's hearts for hundreds of years. Later, kings and explorers dreamed of building a canal, a long water path between the oceans. This canal could help ships travel faster and more safely. At that time, ships had to sail all the way around the bottom of South America. It was a long and dangerous trip. Many ships were lost in storms. A canal could save time and save lives. In the 1800s, a famous man from France arrived in Panama. His name was Ferdinand de Lesseps. He had built the Suez Canal in Egypt, which connected the Mediterranean Sea to the Red Sea. That canal made trade much easier. People believed he could build a canal in Panama too. He was a hero. He smiled, waved to the crowds, and promised, "This will be easy." Lesseps brought money, machines, and workers. People came from many places, France, the Caribbean, China, and beyond. They were excited to be part of something so big. They worked with shovels and pickaxes. They used steam machines to dig the earth. The jungle was hot and wet. It rained almost every day. Still, the workers kept going. They worked under the sun and through the rain. They believed in the dream. One young man from Jamaica looked out at the trees and the rivers. It was his first time in Panama. He wrote a letter to his mother. "Mama, it is hard here," he said, "but I want to be part of something great." Ferdinand de Lesseps wanted to build the canal at sea level, just like in Egypt. But Panama was different. The land was not flat. There were tall hills and deep rivers. The jungle was full of danger, snakes, bugs, and thick mud. Then something worse happened. Many workers got sick. They had fevers, chills, and pain. Doctors did not know why. Every day more men fell ill. Some never got better. Still, Lesseps did not give up. He walked through the camps and told the workers, "You are making history." He wrote to his granddaughter Marie saying, "One day, you will see a ship cross from one ocean to the other. I hope you will remember that your grandfather helped begin this dream." But the problems got bigger. The ground was weak. Heavy rains caused landslides. Big pieces of earth and rocks fell into the trenches. Machines got stuck in the mud. Workers had to dig the same place again and again. It felt like the jungle was fighting back. People started to worry. Money was running out. Workers were tired and afraid. Newspapers called the project a disaster. In 1889, the French project ended. The dream had failed. More than 20,000 workers had died. The jungle had won, for now. But the dream did not die. It was still there, deep in the hearts of the people who believed in it. The land was still waiting. The oceans were still calling. Somewhere, someday, someone would try again. And when they did, the world would change forever. After the French failed to build the Panama Canal, the land became quiet again. The jungle grew back. The rain filled the empty trenches. People were sad and tired. Many believed the dream was over, but others still hoped. The idea of connecting the two oceans was too important to forget. In the early 1900s, the United States became interested in the canal. American leaders believed that the canal would help ships travel faster and safer. It would help businesses grow and help the Navy move more easily between oceans. President Theodore Roosevelt strongly believed in the canal. He said, "The canal must be built, and it will be built." At that time, Panama was not its own country. It was part of Colombia. The U.S. tried to make a deal with Colombia to build the canal, but Colombia said no. Then something important happened. The people of Panama wanted to become independent. They wanted their own country. The United States helped them. In 1903, Panama became free, and soon after, they signed an agreement with the U.S. to begin work on the canal. This time, the Americans had a different plan. They wanted to learn from the French failure. The first problem they wanted to fix was the disease. During the French project, thousands of workers had died from yellow fever and malaria. No one knew exactly what caused the diseases, but the Americans brought someone who had an idea. Dr. William Gorgas was a military doctor. He had helped stop yellow fever in Cuba. He believed that mosquitoes were spreading the disease. Many people did not believe him, but he was sure. He said, "If we kill the mosquitoes, we can save the workers." Dr. Gorgas and his team went to work. They drained swamps and cleared water puddles where mosquitoes could lay eggs. They sprayed oil on water and burned garbage. They also taught workers to use mosquito nets when they slept. Slowly, the changes began to work. Fewer workers were getting sick. The hospitals were not as full. People were still careful, but now they had hope. One day, a young worker coughed at dinner. Everyone stopped eating, but his friend smiled and said, "Don't worry, we are safer now. Dr. Gorgas is watching over us." The workers began to believe they could survive in Panama. At the same time, the American engineers made a new plan for the canal. They decided not to build a sea-level canal like the French. Instead, they would use a system of locks. These locks would lift ships up and down between the oceans and the land in the middle. It was a smart idea for Panama's hills and rivers, but it was also a big challenge. The locks had to be very strong and very large. The workers came from many places. Some were from the United States, but most came from the Caribbean islands. They spoke different languages, but they shared one goal. They worked hard every day, digging, building, and moving heavy rocks. They were tired, but they believed in the canal. In the evenings, the workers sat outside their small homes. Some played music. Others wrote letters to their families. A woman from Barbados cooked warm food for sick workers. "You are far from home," she said, "but you are not alone." President Roosevelt wanted to see the work with his own eyes. In 1906, he visited Panama. He was the first U.S. president to travel to another country while in office. When he arrived, workers cheered. He walked through the mud, shook hands, and climbed onto a big machine. He smiled and said, "This is the greatest work of our time." The workers were proud. They felt that someone important cared about their efforts. They felt stronger. One worker from Jamaica said, "We are building something that will change the world." Even with disease, rain, and danger, the work continued. It was hard. It was painful, but it was also full of courage. The people in Panama were not just building a canal. They were building a new future. Together. The work on the Panama Canal continued. It was long, hard, and full of challenges, but the workers did not give up. They worked together every day, building something the world had never seen before. It was not just about digging a path. It was about solving big problems with smart ideas and strong hands. One of the hardest parts was cutting through the mountains. This area was called the Gaillard Cut. The ground was full of rock, and the rain made it soft and dangerous. Sometimes the land would slide back into the trench, covering the work they had done. But the workers kept going. They used steam shovels, dynamite, and trains to remove the earth. Every piece they moved brought them closer to their goal. The engineers also built a large lake in the center of the canal. It was called Gatun Lake. The lake was made by blocking a river with a dam. This lake helped connect both sides of the canal. Ships would float through the lake as part of their journey. It was a new idea, and it worked. Then came the locks. These were huge chambers made of concrete and steel. The locks were like water elevators. They lifted ships up to the lake and brought them back down to sea level on the other side. Water flowed in and out to move the ships up and down. The system used the power of gravity, and it was a smart and simple design. The workers were proud of what they were building. They came from many different countries, but they worked as one team. They shared stories, food, and music. On Sundays, they rested, sang songs, and danced. A worker named Samuel from Jamaica wrote in his letter, "We are far from home, but we are part of something big. One day people will talk about this canal, and I will say, I was there." Finally, the big day came. On August 15, 1914, the first ship passed through the Panama Canal. It was called the SS Ancon. People lined the sides of the canal to watch. They were quiet at first, watching carefully. Then, when the ship passed through the last lock and entered the Pacific Ocean, they cheered. Some cried. Some smiled. It was a moment they would never forget. The canal was now open. It connected the Atlantic Ocean to the Pacific Ocean. It saved ships many weeks of travel. It made trade faster and safer. The world had changed. The dream was real. But even after the canal was finished, there were questions. The United States had built the canal, but Panama was the land where it was built. Many people in Panama felt left out. They could not enter the canal zone without permission. They wanted to have more control over something that was in their own country. In 1964, Panamanian students held a protest. They wanted their flag to fly next to the American flag in the canal zone. The protest became violent. Some people were hurt. After that, more people began to speak up. They said Panama should control the canal. Years later, a big change happened. In 1977, U.S. President Jimmy Carter and Panamanian leader Omar Torrijos signed a treaty. The agreement said that Panama would take full control of the canal by the end of 1999. It was a moment of hope and progress. And finally, on December 31, 1999, the Panama Canal became fully Panamanian. The American flag came down, and the Panamanian flag went up. People cheered in the streets. It was a proud day for Panama. After many years, the canal belonged to the people who had dreamed of it long ago. Today, the Panama Canal is still used by ships from all over the world. It helps connect countries and people. But more than that, it tells a story. It is the story of a dream that seemed impossible. A story of workers who believed, who worked, and who never gave up. It is the story of hope, fear, courage, and finally, victory. It is a shared dream that came true. The story of the Panama Canal is not just about building a waterway. It is the story of many people who believed in a dream. It began with explorers like Balboa, who stood on a mountain and saw two great oceans. It continued with brave men like Ferdinand de Lesseps, who tried and failed, but never stopped believing. Then came Theodore Roosevelt and Dr. William Gorgas, who brought new energy, smart plans, and the courage to try again. And of course, we must remember the thousands of workers, people from Jamaica, Barbados, China, America, and many other countries, who gave their time, their energy, and in many cases, their lives. These men and women came from different parts of the world. They spoke different languages. They ate different foods. But they worked side by side. They were united by one thing, the dream of connecting the Atlantic and Pacific Oceans. Some worked with machines, some cooked meals, some dug with shovels, some drove trains. All of them were heroes. In the end, the canal was completed. Ships could now travel between oceans in a few hours instead of weeks. Trade grew faster. Countries became closer, and the world changed forever. Later, Panama gained full control of the canal. It was a long journey, but the people of Panama never gave up. And finally, they were rewarded with ownership and pride. What can we learn from this story? We learn that big dreams take time. They take hard work, and sometimes they fail. But if we keep going, if we work together, and if we believe, then the dream can become real. In today's world, we all have dreams. In school, at work, in life. Sometimes things are difficult. But the story of the Panama Canal teaches us to keep trying. Step by step, day by day, with heart, with hope, and with courage. Congratulations for listening to the full story. You have just improved your English by listening, reading, and learning through a powerful and inspiring story. We are proud of you. Now here is a small question to test your memory. Who was the doctor who helped stop yellow fever in Panama? A. Ferdinand de Lesseps. B. Dr. William Gorgas. Comment A or B below. We'd love to see your answers. If you enjoyed this story and want more, please subscribe to our channel to support us. Your support gives us the energy to keep making quality English learning stories just for you. And if you want to help us even more, feel free to donate. In the beginning, it's not easy to make content like this. We do it for free to help you learn English better and faster. Thank you for being here. See you in the next story.